Julio Acosta. I'm on the advisory board for the Texas Progressive Caucus. What I love about Progress Texas is that you are literally one of the only podcasts that I listen to in Texas Monday to Friday, and I absolutely love all the information that you give out to all Texans. Mi nombre es Julio Acosta. Yo estoy en el concilio de consejería para el caucus progresivo de Texas, y la razón que me encanta Progress Texas es que de lunes a viernes es una de las dos cosas que escucho que apoya a todo lo que viven en Texas.
It's Thursday, June 26, 2025, and this is the Progress Texas Daily Dispatch, rapid response on the breaking news stories Texas progressives need to know. I'm Chris Mosier. Progressives in the Lone Star State have been burned by polling time and again, but it's hard not to look, especially when the polling paints a pretty picture. For the moment, anyway. Cornyn at KXAN TV in Austin writes on new bi-monthly statewide polling numbers from the Texas Politics Project at UT Austin, where the latest numbers found respondents' top political concern was politics itself, more specifically, their thoughts on current leadership and the state of both parties. Inflation and immigration coming in as the second and third most important problems of the day, with low priority placed on issues including drug abuse, the Middle East, Russia, energy, and gas prices. 51% overall believe the economy is worse than it was a year ago, with the biggest points of economic concern including the cost of health care, food, consumer goods, and housing. A continued slide in Donald Trump's approval ratings in Texas, 3 decreases in a row, which would have started just as his second administration got underway at the beginning of the year. 51% disapprove strongly or somewhat of Trump, while 44% approve. Only 27% approve of Trump strongly. Specific to Trump's job approval, 51% disapprove, in the worst rating Trump has received across 7 UT Texas Politics Project polls asking that question across both of his terms. 53% of polled Texans believe Trump's tariff plan will have a negative long-term economic impact here. Looking at the Senate race for 26, both John Cornyn and Ken Paxton remain overall underwater, Cornyn by 22 points and Paxton by 14, but broken out by Republicans and conservatives, Paxton is far in the lead and appears here to be a lock should the two eventually face off in a primary. Immigration views have shifted somewhat, both dropping in terms of the issue's overall importance and growing negative reactions to recent images of aggressive ICE apprehension tactics. Strong opposition here to ICE arrests of people showing up for hearings at courthouses, at hospitals, or churches, of people present in the U.S. on asylum or safety grounds, of separating children from their parents, of stalking migrant children at their schools, and almost 70% oppose the deportation of people who were brought to the U.S. as children. All of the big GOP players in Texas politics, including Governor Abbott, Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, House Speaker Dustin Burrows, Ken Paxton, John Cornyn, and Ted Cruz, have negative approval numbers. Alejandro Serrano at the Texas Tribune looks at the poll's results on Dan's ban, that complete ban on THC products forced through the legislature by Dan Patrick and vetoed by Governor Abbott, and now apparently the central topic of an upcoming special session. 53% overall in Texas oppose Dan's ban, with less than half of Republican respondents in support of it. Again, polls are mere snapshots in time, and before long this one will literally be history, but it would seem a great moment for a newly energized opposition to make a move with the right investment and the right message. Speaking of that special session, called specifically about Dan's ban, but also including a few other far less controversial items, the rush appears to be on to do more. Some stuff of great importance, and what's more important than water? Blake Holland at KLTV in Tyler says an eyebrow-raising proposal to pump massive amounts of water from the Carrizo-Wilcox Aquifer via private wells in East Texas, backed by Dallas hedge fund manager Kyle Bass, has drawn considerable public concern. As state law stands, property owners generally have carte blanche on how much water they can pump from their wells, so Bass's plan is technically legal, but critics are arguing that it's neither ethical nor ecologically sound, especially if that water is exported away from where it was drawn. And sentiment is growing for legislative reform here. Republican State Rep Cody Harris of Tyler has scheduled a public hearing to examine whether that state law needs to change, and he's pushing the governor to add the issue to the special session. We should note here that Kyle Bass, the guy who wants to basically take this aquifer for himself, is not tied to the philanthropic Bass family behind Fort Worth's Bass Concert Hall, the Kimball and Modern Art Museums, and more. Different family altogether. We're definitely hearing of crazier ideas being pushed on the governor for the special session, including the conversion of ivermectin to over-the-counter availability. But so far, nothing much on the real threat to Texas progressive voters, and that would be the mid-decade redistricting session that Donald Trump's lobbying for to help stop a blue backlash next year in the U.S. House. The Dallas Morning News editorial board says Governor Abbott and other Republicans have thus far remained vague about potential redistricting. Texas last redrew districts after the 2020 census, and new data won't come until 2030, which makes redistricting now both unnecessary and risky. Texas is already extremely gerrymandered, and ever-increasing precision in the technique undermines fair representation. The board says, quote, "We would like to think that in a state as conservative as Texas, the Republican Party would be able to win voters over with good ideas and strong policy instead of by rigging maps. Let's not forget that there are plenty of Democrats in our state, too, and they deserve a voice just as much as their neighbors across the aisle," unquote, and agreed. As Donald Trump's numbers continue to slide in Texas, his impact on the state is outsized and sure doesn't miss the millions of Texans who voted for him. Betty Cross of CBS Austin says a letter from Democratic leadership in D.C. to Trump has identified 15 rural hospitals in Texas that would almost certainly be shut down should Trump's big, beautiful bullshit bill pass as written. Texans who live in Marble Falls and Llano and Levelland and Big Spring and Smithville and Winters and more, a great many of whom are also Trump voters, would suddenly find themselves living a long way from the nearest hospital. That letter and list are linked in the show notes. Trump's also been begging the Texas oil patch to play along with his misadventures in the Middle East. James Osborne at the Houston Chronicle writes that Trump's push for increased oil production after the U.S. bombing of nuclear sites in Iran hasn't resonated with Texas oil companies. Todd Staples of the Texas Oil and Gas Association says drilling decisions depend on crude prices, which remain too low for expansion. The sector has faced challenges since last summer, with rig counts down 12% in the Permian Basin. And let's not miss that Trump's tariffs have raised costs for materials required for drilling expansion, including steel. Clayton Siegel, a senior fellow at the Center for Strategic and International Studies, says oil companies owe more fealty to their investors than they do to Trump, adding, quote, "It's not like other countries where politicians can call up the state-owned oil company and say increase supply," unquote. Our mission at Progress Texas is to counter the conservative disinformation machine, which is funded by oil and tech billionaires and religious right-wing activist groups, all while fact-based independent media outlets increasingly face threats to their funding. While access to those outlets is frequently free, as it is here at Progress Texas, it takes listener and viewer support to keep fact-based independent media going. If you've come to appreciate what we do at Progress Texas, now more than ever, we could use your support as a monthly contributor, and no amount is too small. Go to progresstexas.org/donate. Thanks to Sharon Gildstitt, Darby Hamilton, and Kristen Hartwell, all of whom are on the team. We appreciate all of y'all very much. While you're at the website, make sure and hit our web store for the merch to match your progressive values. Y'all means all, Revolution, and our most popular Humans Against Ted Cruz t-shirts are all there, all union printed right here in the Lone Star State. Great stickers and more, all at progresstexas.org. That's the Progress Texas Daily Dispatch for this Thursday, June 26, 2025. Links to all these original stories can be found in our show notes. Progress Texas is a nonprofit rapid response media organization promoting progressive messages and actions. While campaigns come and go, we're the permanent home for progressive media and action in the Lone Star State. I'm Chris Mosier. Thanks so much for listening. Have a great day, and we'll see you again tomorrow morning.